Go. Good evening. Andrew, do me a favor. Tell the listeners and watchers at home who you are, what you do, as much as you're willing.
My name is Andrew Thompson. I am a archivist at the University of Chicago, and I'm a part-time election worker and ballot counter and poll watcher.
Rock and roll. That brings us to today. Peter, tell the people at home, the listeners at home, who you are and what you do, and where you are.
My name is Peter Aaron. I am in Kingston, New York, and I am the arts editor of Chronogram magazine. I am an author and a radio DJ and a musician, and other things to fill up my time and not make me a lot of money doing. So.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And one of the reasons I thought of you, and because this all happened, Andrew and I worked together a long time ago at a furniture moving company of all places.
Mm-hmm.
And he posted on Facebook that he worked, a 14, 15, 16-hour day on election day in Chicago.
16-hour day.
Yeah, and so as you and I discussed earlier, you came to mind as someone who I'd seen be very politically active over the last few years, over the dark times. And
yeah, I did. I worked the polls the 2016 election. Yeah.
which was, for whatever reason for a lot of reasons was probably just slightly less interesting than this one.
Yeah, it certainly felt less dramatic leading up to it. It kind of felt like a foregone conclusion, but it got dramatic afterwards, which that could be the case here too. We haven't been separated from it long enough to know exactly where we're headed.
Yeah.
Now, when you say that, do you mean like as a country or with this actual election still?
I don't think that there's any question about how the election's going to end. I just think, we have 72 days until inauguration day for the president-elect. If the last 4.5 years have taught us anything, that's a really, really long time in Trump years.
Yeah.
So God knows what can happen between now and then.
Yeah.
Well, I've been learning a lot that I was ashamed I didn't know already, and one of them was the certification of the electoral votes. So that's really the next deadline where anything could change or get really crazy, at least as far as who we're inserting into the White House.
Which, from what I know about that, that's just something that should be a formality or whatever. But of course, it's not, because
everything's news now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it might not. I mean, apparently there's at least some pundits that think there's a possibility that some of these Republican electors might decide that they're better representing the people by. But this is the. I have a lot of friends who were very relieved at how things ended up finally. Mm-hmm. Whatever that was, Friday when it was
Saturday,
yeah. So was it Saturday?
Yeah, so Saturday.
It all runs together. I have a job and it all runs together. I still don't know what to do. But I can't shake this trepidation about it still, and part of that is the fact that the American public was galvanized at the voting booth more than it ever been in my lifetime, and it's wonderful to say something like, Biden got more votes than any individual presidential candidate ever, but number two is Trump, the same election, and that fills me with trepidation to know that it's such an even, that it's just so. It really, to me, it feels like that the whole Trumpism thing gained ground, not the other way around.
Well, I mean, obviously, his whole thing has always been, firing up these people that were, like a lot of people on, that were against Trump, also were not involved in things for a long time either, and so it's like, okay, well, both parties got the most people they've had out every I think it's sort of the way it shaked out is further testament to what people have said about the real reason he, really I think the main reason he won last time was just because people just assumed he wouldn't, and they sat out, or they just weren't crazy about either candidate, and they still didn't see the bigger picture of opposing and making sure he didn't get in, which was
right.
But that's now obviously people got off the sidelines. The people that sat out the sidelines and didn't vote against him last time got off the sidelines this time.
Agreed, and heartening to see, but it just seems like I don't know. I guess I was really hoping for a stronger rejection of the whole thing than we got.
Yeah,
And
71 million people felt that he was doing a good job over the last 4 years. So
yeah,
that's 71 million people that aren't just going to go away in the next,
Right.
during the next term. So it's a long-term problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it goes back to something that I said not long ago was that and I think maybe the first time you and I, Scott, you and I talked about this was just sort of like the reality that that you can't just sit back and assume everything's going to work out okay and let other people
right,
run the ship, and
right.
just look what happens. You have to be, you have to have a little bit of an attachment to it, because otherwise it's going to get away from you, and I
And,
think that has to be maintained after this.
yeah, I think somehow people need to be more involved. Even, I mean, yeah, it's wonderful that the horrors of the last 4 years galvanized people to the voting booths, but and I've always encouraged people to vote, especially like local level shit. But
Yeah.
I've spent a lot of time. I've done a lot of soul searching the last few years about how little I do, and it just there's the thing is there's things to do. Peter, you encouraged letter writing campaigns incessantly,
Yeah.
and it's and I only ever once sent a couple of like foul mouth cards to the governor here, but that's the kind of stuff that these people have to listen. Supposedly, they have to listen to their constituents, and
Yeah,
I
well,
think
I mean, it's like it ain't hard to do,
Yeah.
no,
especially if it's just a postcard or an email or something, and it's just like, otherwise it's just like, well, I'm just powerless. I can't do anything about this anyway, and it's like you can, I mean,
and you
enough,
should.
yeah, enough other people do little things that'll all add up, as which is what has which is what had got us this outcome of this election. I mean,
You could have said what I thought you were gonna, which is what got us this far
Yeah.
as a
well,
country.
well,
Um, I mean, good decisions and bad. The history of our republic is supposed to be the people's voice, and
Yes.
and obviously you can go back in history and pick and choose the good and the bad depending on your point of view.
sure.
But I mean, that's the thing is you're talking about the little things constituents do. I mean, 71 million people, like Andrew mentioned. These are the people that fuel in my opinion, the insanity of McConnell and I mean, because I've told a lot of people the worst thing that could have happened in the last 4 years was to have Trump get assassinated. And people I know who are vehemently opposed to him are just like, "Are you crazy?" And I'm like, "Think about it. He'd be a martyr for Trumpism, and it's not like Trumpism's going to die.
No.
Even if it'd live longer if he did.
Probably,
It's a suggestion I've made several times out of just frustration and anger. Like, my wife's like, that is not something we want to have happen. Like,
Yeah, I
we
mean,
do not
It's
want to make him
not.
harder.
it definitely it feels really good to
Yeah.
see that.
It's
And
very
think that,
cathartic,
but I
but
mean,
it's
yeah, it's gonna get it's something that would get co-opted and misused, and
Like
I mean,
everything else.
yeah, I mean, and I'm sort of split over this whole thing, is because I really feel like, for how he's conducted himself, and what is what he's done, and being so reckless, that he needs to be prosecuted. I mean, he needs to be made an example of. Um, but on the other hand, um, that could that work in a martyr sort of come back, too. I don't know. I mean, on the other hand, it's just it. I mean, being voted out sends a really good message that people won't stand for stuff. That definitely has to be there regardless. But on the other hand, getting just like a slap on a wrist, is that, would it be? It seems like that wouldn't be enough of a deterrent to prevent someone else from coming along and thinking that they can do the same thing.
Well, that's the thing, is the myriad of someone else's. I mean, I would argue that there's a fairly high percentage of young GOP reps and various positions that are totally embracing it based on those 71 million people that are like, this is the way to go. And I just, I don't know. I'm very cynical.
The scary thing is the idea of someone harnessing his playbook that actually understands what they're doing.
Right.
So my wife and I have discussed Tom Cotton being the next Trump troll, as you want to put it, you know, because he understands what he's doing when he's trolling the public. He's not just doing it from a narcissistic standpoint.
Right.
And so, you know, Trump writes the playbook, someone more talented than he picks it up, then
it's inevitable.
You know, it becomes an issue.
There was a really good article in Time yesterday, in Time magazine, that said exactly that. You know, it kind of, that idea was the focus of it. And of course, like Tom Cotton came up, and they mentioned a couple other, you know, people I wasn't familiar with. But yeah, that's the thing. It's just, and you know, the whole you know, what obviously before Trump there was you know, it made all these social strides in terms of you know, improving society and making it more inclusive and all. And then there's people that were looking for a crack to get in there, and you know, obviously take advantage of that everyone just assumes that things are always going to be how they've been, and that all the stuff that, you know, civil rights and, you know, and everything else just were all in place and never going to go away. But at the same time, there's, you know, and there's maybe not a lot of people that are trying to work their way in there to undo that, but there's people that know how to take advantage of this embittered, alienated mindset that Trump took advantage of, and they're waiting for their chance to get in there and blow that up and take advantage of it, and everyone else, through our laziness and non-involvement, they just took advantage of that. It's like my analogy that I keep coming back to is it's like fittingly enough, like a disease. It's if a sickness gets into your body and you start showing symptoms, and you don't you know, you ignore them, or you don't go to get them treated, you don't, you know, use any treatment, and then you get sick or you die, well, it's on you, because you just were tra-la-laing along.
Yeah, you ignored what was in front of you.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. Or you address just the symptoms and not the cause.
Yeah,
that too.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's one of the biggest issues we have as far as some of these societal things that the country's so split on. You mentioned the civil rights movement, education, these kinds of things. Things that my mind boggles when I discover such huge segments of the population don't support them.
Yeah,
you know, but some of those issues, some of the problems that I think anyway, I'm no politician, I'm no, you know, scholar, but it's addressing symptoms instead of causes. You know, I mean, I find it absolutely astounding that people don't understand the correlation between our diminishing educational system and our diminishing IQ as a country.
Sure.
I mean, people are just like, well, you know, it's becoming this thing where having almost a rudimentary education at all is a province of the upper classes. And it's just,
yeah.
It's amazing. I just don't understand how people can look at that and be like, yeah, that's cool. That's
they don't see the direct connection. Yeah.
No, I mean, the emphasis is on, you know, supporting manufacturing and, you know, well, I shouldn't even say that, because obviously, you know, manufacturing got outsourced so they could, you know, the companies could pay other people less money than they were, you know, that's right. And they didn't, and when that happened was not at the same time as education was being
strip mined.
And it was more just like, you know, it's just like it wasn't seen as important. You know? Just, you know.
Yeah, I was going to say the thing that I've always found incredibly difficult with this political moment is trying to explain. So I'm from rural Pennsylvania, southeast of Pittsburgh. I've now lived in Ohio and Florida and Chicago. So I've been through all these different swing states and met, all these different people until
All
now.
swing states.
Until now, where it's a kind of a foregone conclusion in Illinois. But there's this complete lack of understanding as to why people in my home area, like hometown, would vote for Trump when there is no political reason for them to support a candidate like that. It's a ex-steel town that hasn't found an identity since the local mill closed. So it becomes a cultural vote and not a political vote. And I've found myself explaining that to people in Chicago a lot lately, being like, yeah, well, it's just like they're more upset that, my father in 2016 basically voted for Trump because he felt like that guy saying the things I wish I was still allowed to say. And
there was a lot of that. That
was the better part of it, I would say.
Yeah, and then some people got tied up into it, and it becomes part of your identity at that point. Like, oh, I'm making these people that I didn't.
By better part, I mean the bigger part of it.
No, I understand what you're saying. But it becomes a situation where people roll that into their identity as it becomes a larger and larger issue in their life. And then, luckily I can say from my family's perspective, as my father woke up 16 months into the administration, was like, I made a mistake. And I think maybe the county swung 4 or 5% more Democratic than it did last election. Yeah. So he wasn't the only one. But still, it still went, almost 70% red. So in a county that really doesn't have the kind of financial wherewithal to gain from a Republican administration. So, I mean, these are all old blue counties that still vote red for cultural reasons. They don't gain anything from a Republican administration. They just, it makes them feel good. And,
the good thing about that, which I definitely, having lived in Ohio too, and I'm upstate New York. Obviously Hudson Valley and Woodstock area, 2 hours from New York, it's still pretty liberal area, but there are, when I worked at polls in 2016, that was one of the things that hit me, is the people that were there early, waiting in line to vote when the polling place opened, were mostly people that you can't generalize, but you got the feeling they're very white, blue collar, and they were excited to vote for Trump. And but the good thing I was going to say about what you just said, Andrew, was that is that culture is changing. People resent it, but you can't stop. Just think about in the mid 1960s, if you were in the Deep South and you were your hair was as long as mine, like a bunch of guys with square flat tops would stomp my face. And then those guys, they all grew their hair out and became the good old boys.
Yeah.
And you can even see how gay people are more accepted in that demographic that would have been inconceivable, like maybe even 10 years ago.
Yeah, that has been a pretty quick switch.
Yeah. They can't stop that, and they're desperate, and they're trying, but even that's gonna come to small towns, to some degree.
But see, you make a good point there, because I agree with you. All of us here, all of us here are old enough to have seen the acceptance grow in groups and minorities that were unthinkable as recently as 1980. But the thing is that acceptance, to me now, the way things have shaken out the last 4 years, and especially the last 4 days, there's a huge segment of the population that's still rejecting completely. And it's almost as if they're standing up and going, wait a minute, what are you accepting?
Yeah, it's been undone a lot, but I just think there's still change it just can't be contained, and so I'm saying, that should not be. That doesn't mean you should not keep working to try and keep things getting better, because people get hurt, and a lot of really important laws and things could get undone and be totally destructive. But I just mean that's right. Something that's at least some optimistic kernel is something to hang on to.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate very, very, very much. Well, that's another thing too, is it, again, and I'm sorry to keep saying this because I'm sure we're all in the same place. I find it mind-boggling that these people don't understand that this division is bad for our country. They're make America great, America first, blah, 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 blah. And meanwhile, we're being gutted from the inside. And it just seems like a no-brainer to me. It's just like, wait, didn't you learn the together stronger thing when you were like in grade school playing Red Rover? I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
Well, the thing was, there was a social pressure to adhere to that standard, and a lot of that has been undone by people that were looking to take advantage of the uncertainty of that.
And so well too.
Yeah, but that just means it have to stay on it and not take it for granted. It's just like all the stuff that I've been doing with the letter writing and phone banking. It's just like, fuck, you remember me back in the day. It was just like, of course, like back in the 80s, like we all, we hated Reagan. We thought he was a warmonger, and and blah blah blah.
Because he was.
Sure, he was. Yeah, he was. And merciless, like military industrialists and all. It's just that's just how it was. But it just it hit me at the beginning of all this stuff, and I know this is true of a lot of other people. It's just like, holy shit, like if no one's going to do this shit for us, and it doesn't even mean like have to do anything super big or daunting. It's just little things to like keep it going, and just once in a while, and like the phone banking that I did that for Biden like 5 or 6 times over the last like couple of weeks, and it's like 45 minutes a night, maybe once or twice a week. And
maybe talk to a dozen people.
Yeah, you don't get through a lot of people, but actually, like calling Pennsylvania, like there was a couple people where they were they said they were totally supporting Biden, they just didn't know where their polling place was. So I looked, they had a little automated thing to fill in. It's like I helped get them to the polls to go to vote. Just like, like shit, it just and it was just like, it's hard to do that. Like maybe once in a while you'll get someone that either says that they're voting for Trump, and then you're just like, okay, I'm sorry to bother you, have a good night, and you're on to the next person, or else they maybe they. I hardly had any hostile. People are usually just polite beyond your polite to them.
If they answer the phone in the first place, they're willing to talk for a minute anyway.
Yeah, and if they are hostile, like big deal, like whatever, just hang up and like forget about them. You're on the next thing. You don't even think about it like 2 minutes later. I should
have done both you guys next fall, or I guess 2 years be the next big of the midterms. Both you guys have to hassle me. What?
December. There's the runoffs in Georgia.
Yeah, that's gonna be.
But I can't. You guys gonna phone bank Georgia?
Yeah, it's all through.
I am me, Pete. I am me. I spend all day on the phone. I'm perfectly fine getting hot. My biggest concern doing that stuff is if I talked to somebody that was a Trump supporter this past few weeks. My first thing would have been, why?
You just got to look at like I'm just like methodically doing this thing.
That's right. It's a numbers game. Get through it.
Yeah.
I'm just reading this little script, and then whatever. If it takes a turn for it, just like big deal. You go on to the next one. Just the idea is to generate as many calls as you can in that little amount of time that you're doing it.
Yeah, and you know what, Pierre? I think that this Senate runoff is going to prove to be so important that I'm going to publicly declare right now. You get me the information, I will do that at least a couple of nights leading up to that runoff.
Right on. Good. Yeah. It's easy. It's a program called Through Text, and you just log into it, and then it gives you a phone number to call. And you call that, and you put in a passcode, and then it's showing you who the name of the person.
Yeah, it's a dialer. It's a dialer, and you just run through the computer, and I can use this bad boy for it.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
I'm all over it.
Yeah.
Now, okay, so let's go ahead and just really quick, I want to hear your guys' opinion on this. I want to delve into the realm of the conspiracy theories. Okay. Just a little bit, because I started this whole thing because of COVID-19, which I find it interesting. Well, I find it terrifying and interesting too. Is worse than it's ever been.
Yeah.
I consider Black Friday, Friday the 13th in March, almost exactly 8 months ago, the start of the whole thing. And it's arguably worse in the United States right now than it's been the entire time. Um, and I, I kind of think that the Trump campaign deliberately decided to see how many people they could get infected with it between now and when Biden gets inaugurated.
Feels that way.
It really, it's the thing is,
I mean,
God help me, it just looked that way.
Yeah.
And the whole business with him getting COVID and getting to come out the other side really seemed designed to kind of put a ribbon on his whole "it's not a big deal" thing.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I'll let Andrew. If Andrew's, I don't want to step on Andrew. He's good.
No, I can understand how it might seem that way. The problem with conspiracies is they often require entirely too much work and intelligence.
Yeah, exactly, all of them. Yeah.
And so, I think it's coincidental. I think the lack of doing anything is why it's so much worse. Well, along with also the fact that, we're exhausted from being inside for 7 months and we just went through a presidential election. And it got kind of nice and warm in heavily populated parts of the country all of a sudden. So
yeah, none of those factors can be disputed. And I'm totally kidding. I actually refuse to believe that even the entire GOP would be smart enough to connive something like that together.
Yeah. No, I think it's like the whole thing with trying to blame it on China. That they release this virus is it's incredibly ridiculous because it's like if you release a virus out in the world. It might go, you put it somewhere and might kill your enemies. Eventually, it's going to come back.
Kill you, yeah.
Kill you. It makes no sense at all,
Yeah.
And
my favorite,
I think, Trump obviously had access to the best medicine, or blah blah blah.
I'm still not convinced he had it, even with that in play.
Well, I don't know. I think
it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, it really.
It's
doesn't.
like Queen Elizabeth's still alive because she's had access to the best medicine her entire life.
I actually think she might be an animatron.
So an unhealthy 70-some-year-old would normally die from COVID in most situations, but he had access to the best medicine. So
yeah, that's and I mean, and look at what's happening. Like what Ben Carson and like what 5 other people today. Like just like what idiots. Just pretending it's. I mean, obviously it got this bad because it didn't want to. Acknowledge that it was happening and, whatever, and
nobody did.
And
then
doubled down on, Yeah. Well, he's giving, if his base wants to believe that it's not happening, because if he makes them feel better politically and then they're scared of a virus and he makes them feel like it's not that big of a deal, they're going to continue to buy into that same cycle.
Sure.
So,
yeah. I think some of that was a contributor to the 71 million as well. The thought process that this virus does not apply to me, and the way this virus was, this virus, and this virus was handled by this administration the way I felt like it should have been handled, which again I find crazy. Yeah. But at the same time, I can kind of logically see where those dots meet.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's because push this sort of tone that made it a political thing to wear a mask and take precautions against it and try to do whatever we could to keep it from spreading, made it this thing where somehow, that was a political statement and just ridiculous. It's just like,
Well, I believe was completely calculated, not necessarily by Trump, but what the GOP did pretty much right out of the gate, because I think they knew they couldn't control it as soon as it started. What they did right out of the gate is they put forth this idea that if you wore a mask and concerned yourself with others, you were a pussy.
Well, I mean,
there's some of that to it.
Yeah, some of that, but I mean that obviously, is played up just because, taking it seriously would be an acknowledgement of like we fucked up and we didn't take it seriously.
Yeah.
And that, and that's sort of like, well, we can't all of a sudden start saying we were wrong.
But the thing is, they did that. There was this really tiny window. When did they pass this first stimulus check thing? Was that May or was it late April?
It was definitely not. It was April.
Okay. Yeah. So that was the thing, is there was this kind of couple weeks moment where I thought, okay, this is, they're going to treat this like something to be taken. Remember there was that kind of reserved press conference Trump did where he's like, well, I don't know if masks are good if you want to wear them. Remember there was a weird thing where there was a kind of a conciliatory tone about the whole thing. Because at that point we were like, there was 250,000 cases already. There'd been a big jump from that initial outlay or whatever. I really wish I'd paid more attention to the numbers and how they jumped.
Yeah.
Because I got to a point where I just stopped looking. But
well, there was just so much going on.
Oh, it was
Obviously,
crazy.
part of it was to, to cloud the water. I mean, not a be a conspiracy theory, but obviously they don't want to look bad, and
I mean, it's not. I don't consider it conspiracy theory to have paid attention to the fact that for the last 4 years the Trump administration has been astounding at smoke mirrors, distractions.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, no, I didn't mean, I didn't mean to sound like, I just basically, it's just political shenanigans. I mean, that's,
Yeah. It's a perfect example of collective exhaustion. That's what we, you just, the things that, would you'd rip your hair out for in the first weeks of the administration, now you just scroll through.
Yep.
So, yeah. And I mean, that's like, that's my little, shit that I do on Facebook is to counteract that. It's just like, I know, like, I definitely, I think there's other people that are way like more heavy on the posting stuff that I do. And I always try to like, I always try to post stuff that's more substantive, and once in a while, it's something that's just too funny to like.
Yeah.
But I mean, I try to like lean more on the substantive, But it's just like, yeah, I'm tired of talking about this stuff too, and I'm tired. But on the other hand, it's just like to like not to just let stuff go by and not say anything about it is like, how can the whole normalization thing? It's just like.
Yeah.
How can you be okay with that?
Yeah.
But we've been desensitized. I mean, I told Brian Driscoll, God love him. I told him early on in this whole thing, did you ever think you'd long for George W?
Yeah, I know.
Right.
Yeah, we just thought,
we thought that was the biggest clown you could ever put in office at the time.
Incompetent and Iraq, starting the Iraq war and everything,
and it's like.
And his dad even, I mean.
I think about, in, what was it, 2012, my wife and I worked the Obama campaign in Florida, and, thinking about how refreshing it would be if Mitt Romney was running now. Like at the time, that's the enemy that we were working so hard against, and like how nice that would feel.
Or McCain.
John McCain.
McCain, I mean.
Yeah.
Eminently reasonable comparatively to what we're dealing with.
But that's the thing, is the kind of dogging of McCain. I thought that was going to create a schism finally in the GOP, and I couldn't believe how many of those people stood idly by while Trump essentially dogged their hero.
Yeah, well, it seems to have hurt him in Arizona.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Well, it should, as it should have.
Yeah. I mean,
right.
Of course, like, when Obama was running against like McCain, it was just like, I mean, he's like the Dark Lord or whatever. How like, it's just like, wow, it's just like, okay, it's kind of a good. I mean, obviously McCain stood for a lot of stuff that was like unforgivable or whatever. But on the other hand, it is kind of a reminder of just sort of like, well, there's realistic, opposition, and there's a way to, and even McCain, like, remember there was that woman that was at that rally he did where she came up to him and she was, saying that Obama was the Antichrist or something like that, and he said, no, he's a good man and all that kind of. I mean, it's a reminder of like, wow, like, well. Maybe that isn't such a bad alternative.
There was a time when there was a mutual respect thing, at least. Even if your goals were different, the idea was that you were still a statesman and that you represented a section of the populace. Mm-hmm. And that's that's the thing, is the fact that we've things have been allowed to degenerate to the point that I'm not sure there's a recovery from. I think. I'm sorry, Andrew, go ahead.
I understand what you're saying. I'm wondering what 4 years of relative normalcy can do.
I don't think we're getting it. I don't think we're getting, because we still got the McConnell controlled Senate. And yes, I'm on the phones in Georgia, but I don't think we're getting it. I think we've reached this point now where it's literally dog eat dog, my side, your side.
Well, I mean, I think there's always going to be more of that than there was before, just obviously because internet and everything and blah blah blah. But
the internet and everything. It can't be on. I mean, it really can't be dismissed that easily. But yes, I know what you mean.
Yeah. But I mean, I think that just means we have to practice the way we want things to be. I mean, that's all we can do anyway when it comes down to it, you know. And that doesn't mean it's like when I talk about the things I've done to try and, you know, help the campaign against Trump and everything. It's just like I never try to put it out there where it's like, you know, you have to do this, you do this. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know, you do what you want. This is what I'm doing. I'm letting you know that I'm doing it. You know, and then if somebody wants to ask, that's all. And you know, I think that is gonna bring more people in and make them feel that that they can actually affect things.
You know, the other thing too is the way we treat each other on the street too, I think is changing. I don't know. I think if there was some way that we could somehow sociologically reinforce the idea of consideration, compassion, even in disagreement, that's what I think is really missing, is this idea that people that don't agree with your views are somehow to be vilified and brought down versus worked with to find some common ground. It's almost like the idea of common ground is anathema to a huge swath of the population.
No, I don't think you're wrong. I mean, I spent a considerable amount of time railing against Biden as a candidate before it became, you know, this
necessary.
Well, that's true. I mean, like, I completely understand that, you know, Biden wasn't my candidate in the primary. Biden's policies are incredibly more centrist than my own. But I have to make a decision between, you know, people that are suffering way more than me just because we don't have a progressive candidate doesn't mean that, you know, I need to sit it out. So I think we need to think of everybody's stakes, not just our own.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's like hey, you know, I voted for Bernie in both primaries and both times I went into it really not expecting, you know, him, you know, to win, but you know, having lived in Ohio, whatever, I'm in this bubble. East Coast now, but you know, it was sort of like, well, the fact that, you know, he's on the ticket and he got as far as he did, that says a lot. That's something I never thought I would see.
Right. You didn't think there was enough support for those radical ideas that would go so far.
And obviously, you know, he's helped reshape the Democratic Party in a you know,
some ways
direction.
Anyway.
Yeah, in a better direction, even in much more than it was before. And you know, it's like, okay, you know, I mean, you know, it's just like, I'll take it. And, you know, I mean, we're never going to get that with the other side at all, you know.
Not even close. But that's the other thing too. And we're going to get cut off here because I leave it on the 45-minute limit thing. Andrew, thank you so much. Peter, thank you so much. But you guys right here at the end there, this is a whole nother conversation that could be had if you guys want to sometime soon. And that's it. And the question is our electoral system broken? Is the Electoral College a failure? This two-party system is obviously something a lot of people hate, but it's just like, it's what we got. We got 350 million people to work with.
It's a discussion I'd be happy to have.
All right. So here it is. It's November 9th, the week after Thanksgiving, that first week of December. We'll get together and we'll talk about that one, and we'll see where things are with everything else.
Sounds good. Thanks, Scott.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Have a great night. We'll talk soon.
Thanks.
Take care.
Bye now.
Bye.